Plato was one of the greatest philosophers in history, the student of Socrates, and the founder of the famous academy in Athens. He believed that the physical world we see is not the real truth. According to Plato, real truth exists in a higher world of perfect ideas, known as the world of forms. Plato once said, "Knowledge is the food of the soul." Years later, a young man arrived in Athens. His name was Aristotle. He entered Plato's academy at around the age of 17 and remained there for almost 20 years. Plato quickly realized that Aristotle was not an ordinary student, but a sharp thinker with an extraordinary mind. Plato is often remembered as saying about Aristotle, "Aristotle is the intellect of my school." Aristotle admired Plato deeply, but he was different. Plato believed truth comes from deep thinking and the world beyond. Aristotle believed truth comes from observation, logic, and experience in the real world. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." As Aristotle grew more intelligent, he began questioning Plato's teachings. Plato focused on idealism, but Aristotle focused on realism. Plato taught that this world is imperfect and only a shadow of the real world. Aristotle believed the physical world is where knowledge begins. Aristotle respected Plato, but he refused to blindly accept everything his teacher said. In fact, Aristotle's most famous line about Plato shows this perfectly. "Plato is dear to me, but dearer still is truth." This sentence became one of the most powerful quotes in philosophical history. It shows that Aristotle loved his teacher, but loved truth more. Plato also noticed Aristotle's growing independence. One famous quote attributed to Plato about Aristotle says, "Aristotle has kicked me just as a colt kicks its mother." This quote shows how Plato felt, proud of his student, but also aware that Aristotle was now strong enough to challenge him. Even though Aristotle disagreed with Plato, he never became his enemy. He respected him, learned from him, and built his own philosophy on top of Plato's foundation. Plato believed reality is in perfect ideas. Aristotle believed reality is in nature and evidence. Plato was the philosopher of the ideal world. Aristotle was the philosopher of the real world. Plato once said, "Wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something." And Aristotle later became one of the greatest thinkers of all time, shaping science, logic, ethics, and politics. Their relationship teaches an important lesson. You can respect your teacher, love your teacher, and still disagree with them. Plato gave the world a vision. Aristotle gave the world a method. And that is why the relationship between Plato and Aristotle remains one of the most legendary teacher-student stories in human history.